Well, hello, Uplevelers. Wanted to do a recap of this 6-month season, the ROI of coaching in the workplace. And first, a little background as to why Rachel and I felt it important to spend time having these conversations with all these incredible people that we did. Well, obviously, it's one of the mainstays of our mission and our business, which is to bring more humanity into the workplace, and coaching, training people managers and coaching skills, offering coaching services, and developing cadres of internal coaches inside of our organizational clients is one way that we do that. One sure way that we bring more humanity into the workplace. So to really dive into what is the return on investment in doing those three things, developing cadres of internal coaches, training people managers and coaching skills, and offering coaching services to your employees is a very fruitful way for us to spend some time and unpack why it's so important, and especially during the times we're living through. So I actually started recording this series in fall of 2023. And here we are just on we're just entering the fall of 2024. So it's incredible how the productions of these things take its own course. I started to record it and then decided that we needed to launch 2024 with leading through crisis, chaos, and change, since that was accelerating in the world around us. And actually, we are going to complete 2024 and kick off the new year in that same series, because it's hot. It's hot, and we need to talk more about ways we can navigate these times and talk to business leaders who are doing it well and other practitioners who have tools and contexts and skills to support us all. So in recapping the ROI of coaching in the workplace, we know that the bottom line is that it does make for a better work environment. It does increase engagement, retention, productivity, but that good, aligned, value-driven, energy, human-centered productivity. And we also know that workplaces that are navigating, which is most, different demographics from an age perspective, that coaching really is a universal modality for all the different generations. And that the younger or newer generations to the workforce, they're expecting this, that these are the type of conversations that are happening in the workplace. So we're here for that. And let us take a moment and go deeper into some of the things we garnered and learned from these exceptional guests. And while we do so, I want to make sure that I acknowledge each of them for the unique perspective they brought. And of course, in our podcast, we're not only looking to garner their wisdom, but we also want to highlight the person. So you will have, if you've listened or if you will go back and listen as a result of hearing this episode, is that each of them had a really unique and just beautiful journey to find themselves either as a business leader who's using coaching or as a professional coach and trainer of these types of skills and contexts. So thank you to our 17 incredible humans that joined us, the ROI of coaching in the workplace. First up, Eric Kohner. Eric Kohner is one of our beloved elders, and he is definitely one of the original players in bringing coaching into the workplace. And in his episode, he goes back to those origin days and how coaching first started, first of all, if you're curious about that, but also how it started to infiltrate, if you will, the workplace. He talks about how coaching is tapping into people's aliveness and then creating from that. And that how it really is in this moment in time, one of the most powerful solutions to navigate the uncertainty, the complexity, the ambiguity, the volatility, and the vulnerability. So he goes deeper into how in this moment in time, humans are longing to bring more vulnerability, but also we need training in how to do so. And coaching will help leaders create spaces that people feel like they can be more vulnerable. Next, we had Susan Eddy, who is an incredible leader who had just left Google when we interviewed her for this and went on to and is continuing her own coaching practice. But what we tapped into in that conversation was her last role at Google was all about bringing well-being into the workplace and how coaching is an incredible modality for enhancing well-being. And essentially that the really health of an organization goes down to the relationship between a manager and their direct reports. And so if an organization is investing in training people managers in these skills, then all around there'll be more well-being for the individuals as well as for the entire system. She talked about how coaching is pivotal to help teams and individuals who are at inflection points, which we know is happening at a more rapid pace these days. And what coaching can do is remove the barriers, again, at an individual level and at a team's level and at a systems level, so folks can get unstuck, the system can get unstuck, and that we can experience that forward momentum. So tune into brilliant Susie Ade. Another one of our beloved clients from Google, Vimal Shamedi, he's a business leader, and he discussed how coaching gave him the scaffolding to really sit in the moments when he didn't have the answers. Okay, and we know this is a big thing. I know for me as a leader, especially when I started, I felt like I had to have all the answers. So a modality like coaching gives us permission to be in the unknown or in those gaps, which is so important in these times, because that's where we can really, truly, deeply listen and maybe find a new insight had we just powered through or avoided this unknown place. So Vimal goes deeper into what he calls probably the biggest corporate lie. And I love his conviction around this. So he talks about remarkable results. And the biggest corporate lie is that people do not need to burn out to get remarkable results. That coaching is a way to tap into people's true reservoirs of who they really are and what they can really do. And it allows them to feel accepted, seen, and understood. And then the important stuff gets taken care of in a meaningful way. And it's not in the expense of the human being. So yay to that. And yay to leaders like Vimal. Holly Edichin, who is one of my incredible partners in working at Lululemon. She is a business leader, a people leader, and she's using coaching in her day-to-day management of her business and her team. So we really got to garner coaching in action from that perspective. And she talked about how coach training accelerated her leadership and her ability to effectively lead and manage her business. She says the R.O.I of coaching in the workplace is lit up human beings who are capable of so much more than what they knew they were capable of. And it's a long-term people pipeline, building tenure, and people who want to stay because they too are growing. We love you, Holly. Henrik Kardusky, a longtime colleague who we hadn't connected in quite some time. And so it was really refreshing to tap into his wisdom and his particular lens on coaching. He defines it a little bit differently than I do and that we do at UpLevel. But he has so much really refreshing ways to look at the importance of organizations hiring external coaches. And one of the pieces of wisdom he dropped is that this modality, when a leader is experiencing it, they are going to take those skills and the concepts and strategies designed in those conversations with their external coach, and they will start to replicate that with their teams. So the ripple effect that's part of the R.O.I, making that investment. It doesn't just stop with that person. They are going to transfer these skills, and it's exponential. And he talks about coaching is really helping people, leaders, to uncover their says and their do's. And that coaching will help them uncover their says and do's so that they can do better, bring out better things to say and better things to do. And really ultimately be in better relationship with the system and the individuals and the projects and the results that they're accountable for. Christie King, another one of our brilliant clients from BDO. And Christie talks about the superpower of coaching. She talks about her own individual experience into kind of falling into coaching, which was really cool. But then in her own experience of bringing it into her workplace and how it transforms people to find more balance within themselves and then therefore their whole life, that they become self-advocates to create stronger boundaries. And because of this, they're able to gain more energy. And with more energy, they can do better work in the workplace. So this is part of the R.O.I. It increases engagement and retention. So thank you, Christie, for your wisdom and being such a treasured partner and client of ours. Another one of our beloved colleagues, John Tassau. Oh, John brought the perspective of coaching in Asia. Actually, he coaches all through Asia, who's based there. And he speaks about coaching in the workplace as a modality that helps leaders take responsibility for parts of themselves that may not be getting the desired results and impact. And it also helps to shine light on new strengths and gifts that maybe have been hidden or they haven't felt safe enough or secure enough to bring them forward. So he says coaching helps leaders see within and increase their systems awareness. Thank you, John, for all the good work you're doing in Asia and beyond. Another beloved colleague, Marjolaine Bryn, in her episode, she first spoke about how she found coaching. A colleague asked one powerful question: what do you want? And that probably is one of the most powerful coaching questions. And she shares with us how it led her to this moment in time. And she's currently bringing coaching into very large, impactful organizations, global organizations. And she talks about the R.O.I. that it ultimately will bring better business results. It will create more humane, better places to work. And intrinsically, it will motivate people and have them feel like they belong. So she really bottom lines it in a beautiful way that if we can train not just people managers, but really all folks inside these systems to listen a bit longer and a little bit more deeply, to ask a couple of more powerful questions, get a little more curious, and to consciously design relationships that R.O.I. can be seen. And she's doing it, so she knows. So thank you, Marjolaine, for being such an incredible colleague of ours and doing this good work across organizations across the globe. Kendra Reedy, I hope you listened to her episode as well. And she's doing great coaching work. And she talks about how there are a lot of companies where coaching is happening, but there's not necessarily a coaching culture. So this is really critical. In a coaching culture, what they're doing is taking the high-level themes from the coaching engagements, and then they're using that to inform their strategy to become a force of good in the world, a force of good to work with as well, to create their internal work environment. And she also talks about living a big life, which is like her personal brand. It's a big life, and how it's all about embracing all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the highs and the lows. And she's a true testament of that and doing great work in the world. Signe Wilson, another one of our beloved colleagues, one of my very first trainers when I found coaching almost 2 decades ago. And Signe has created her own body of work, and she talks about that in her episode. And I think it's so beautiful because it's also a outcome of working with a really great coach or even going through coach training. So she talks about how our world needs both the feminine and masculine in a more balanced way. And coaching can support leaders to find more integrated feminine and masculine, more integrated being and doing, which is another thing our world is in desperate need of. And then she talks about consciously and fearlessly leading a life of meaning, purpose, and passion that's focused on your own definition of significance or success. That these should be the measures to benchmark yourself against. And if more people can kind of operate from that self-oriented and integrated feminine and masculine balanced way, that we will have a healthier world. Of course, we'll have healthier workplaces as well. Thank you, dear Signe, for all your magic and medicine. Our next colleague came outside of the coactive community, and I met him through one of my lifelong friends at an event in Toronto, and he is an exceptional coach, and he's doing executive coaching across many different types of organizations. Rahim Moose. And he talks about how change is inevitable, but transformation is a choice. Change is inevitable, but transformation is a choice. He talks about how coaching allows organizational clients to choose to transform and to grow into their resiliency, especially during the times we're living through. He says it's really important for organizations to be making this investment in coaches that are external because they can provide someone in the inside they can be a witness, they can be a sounding board, a thought partner that they may not always feel comfortable or be able to garner or find on the inside of the organization. Thank you, Rahim, for joining the UpLevel crew and sharing your specific wisdom. Anne Farrell, this is actually the episode that's been listened to the most this season. And Anne Farrell, I think, brought a really interesting lens. She's an expert on executive coaching engagements. And she really talks about the distinction between being a coach of individuals and a coach within a system. And that's actually the evolution of coaching, and that the R.O.I. of coaching is having coaches understand this. That you not only have to engage the individual that you've been hired to coach, but you must engage the system that your coachee, your client is a part of. This is really how you'll see transformation and change, and the individual and the organization will get the ROI. And she talks about how coach training and becoming a practitioner of this work allowed her to become the person she was seeking. She was seeking a certain type of leadership and mentorship. So she became that person. True inspiration. Thank you, Anne, for all your wisdom. Our beloved Joni Marr, another one of our dear elders, one of my original trainers. We couldn't have this season without her because Joni is just a force. And she has been on a mission bringing coactive coaching specifically into Asia. And so you get to hear all about that story and the origins of it, like her personal connection to why she's been spending so much time on traveling between continents. And you'll leave inspired if you haven't heard her talk yet, but she's talking about how the profession, she's been doing it for coming up to 30 years, that every time it's different because human beings are different. And the profession is exciting and inspiring, and it demands of her to be awake and present. And that's why it keeps her coming back. And she's currently designed, it's a leadership program that uses some coaching skills and contexts, but she does open up the curtain and let us know the ROI of this engagement. And this is happening globally in an organization, and they are seeing increased retention. They're seeing the participants of this program being able to better balance relationship with results, which we all need desperately, and also improving how they treat their internal teams, keeping them healthy, not leading to burnout, keeping them in the system whole, and to also be focused on the outward, the system, not just internally focused. Thank you, Joni, for always coming to speak with us and for bringing so much wisdom. Okay, Mike and Erin Hutchins, I wanted you all to hear from a couple. They are husband and wife team who run a coaching consulting firm. They offer a coach training program, as well as different leadership development offerings. And we get to hear a little bit, what is it like to co-lead a business with your life partner and to co-parent, and how they use the coaching skills and concepts and context in their working relationship and in their personal life. They talk to us about how coaching is supporting their workplace and with the multiple generations, like what I spoke about when I kicked this off. And that is leading to greater retention and engagement in the clients that they're working with. That coaching helps all team members for when they fall below the line, when we get reactive, when we have those real true human moments. Coaching is it's a technology that gives folks that engage in it more self-awareness so that they can come back above the line quicker to a more creative and impactful, resourceful position. We'll also explore team coaching with Erin and Mike, and they're doing a lot of that and how that is different from one-on-one coaching and the ROI of that in the workplace. They're really seeing a future for that. Maureen Klein-Swarman, thank you so much. He's a dear friend, but was one of the people when I went through my coach training that was willing enough to let me practice on her quite a bit. And in this episode, we're going to hear about her journey. She has been running the coaching and leadership talent management for a financial firm in Canada and been doing incredible work. And she talks about coaching being this modality that unlocks the individual, is that then unlocks their creativity, willingness, innovation, and it creates courage in the workplace because that's required now more than ever. And it helps us all to connect more at that human level. And it allows us to bring more empathy and openness. And ultimately, when managers and leaders are using this technology, they're growing others in that way, but ultimately they're growing themselves. So then you do have an environment of growth. That's coaching culture. She talks about as a people manager, as a people leader, that when she's at her best, she can bring out the best in others. And I think ultimately, if you're listening to this, that's what you want. That's why you're tuning in to this. And so check out her episode if you haven't already. She talks about how everyone gets better when you adopt the approach of coaching and that the ripple effect is exponential and electrifying. And so then we came to Rich Jones. Rich Jones is a beloved colleague of ours. He's also at Google. And oh gosh, witnessing this leader's journey over the past few years has been really inspirational. You're going to hear about it. He's going to share very vulnerably and very open. He thinks that coaching is really all about health and wellness, and at the bottom line, where we are now as the human species, if you will, and the opportunity that organizations have to be catalysts for humanity's well-being and good health so that organizations can continue to thrive, that coaching really taught him to walk in alignment. And he's found himself in an internal role at Google due to a manager who was a natural coach. She asked a super powerful question and provided a reframe with different options he had on the table for which job to choose, and really encouraged him to choose a path that would be more fulfilling, that would capitalize on his strengths and gifts, which coaching does. It really does fan the flame. So he gives us the ROI of coaching in the workplace in his own lived experience. And of course, he's doing this work inside of Google as well. So we get to hear some of those tales. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate you so much. Last but not least was Dr. Rick Tamlin. So we started the season with one of our elders and we ended it with one of our beloved elders, Rick. And we wanted to, just like Eric, we wanted to bookend with Rick because he is also one of the original players of the coaching profession, but of bringing coaching into the workplace. And he tells us those stories about those early days. What I love about being in Rick's orbit almost the past 2 decades is watching his transformation due to being on this path. And he defines coaching not just as a strategic conversation, but it's a spiritual development conversation. One of our goals at UpLevel is that that's not just the language we begin using inside the workplace, but it's the realization that we begin to live. That no matter what your belief is from a religious or spiritual perspective, but that part of humanity is brought into the workplace. Because ultimately, that is who we're speaking to when we're speaking to our higher selves, when a coach is working with somebody. So Rick really goes into that. He talks about the low energetic, just getting by type of energy or people in a workplace, and how organizations can use coaching as a modality to increase the energy or increase the culture or grow the culture in a certain way. Coaching gets the energy moving. It gets people motivated, activated. It gets the right people out of the organization, the right people in, gets folks into the right roles, has them advocating for creating roles that are aligned to their purpose and the organization's purpose. And it really helps to get things in right alignment, which then continues to attract more of the right people and therefore more of the right results. So just loved ending this season with Rick. And thank you, Rick, for all that you bring and the legacy you've brought to this profession and specifically in the workplace. So, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this recap. And if there was an episode that you didn't hear, that you'll want to go back now and listen to that. And of course, they're there to keep listening to. I know every time I hear something new, there's a new nugget of wisdom. But ultimately, if we're up towards bringing more humanity into the workplace and we're wanting to grow consciousness in a way that does create more belonging, that does bring more compassion, that does bring more aligned results, then coaching is one sure way for you as an organization, for you as an individual leader to get some coaching, to do some coach training. And if you are at a systems level, to bring coach training into your organization. And it's so beneficial. And any of these folks that were on this season, and specifically our clients who are doing just that, they're training people managers in coaching, they're developing cadres of internal coaches, let us know. And we'd be happy to set up a conversation so you can hear it right from them, the ROI, why they continue to make this investment. Ultimately, though, we want to thank you for continuing to listen. We also became one of the web's top 10 coaching culture podcasts throughout this season. So it's definitely a big part to these incredible 17 humans that joined us in this conversation. And it's, of course, a big part to you, our listeners who come back to the well of UpLevel. We appreciate you. Communicate with us. Let us know what other themes you want us to dive into, and other guests, maybe it's you. Let us know. And we're always looking to produce in a way that's strategic and aligned with what's happening in our world. And that's why I said we're going to go into part 2 of Leading Through Crisis, Chaos, and Change coming up shortly here. And we've got a roster of incredible practitioners as well as business leaders who are really modeling this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love this part of my work. I love getting to create conversations like this with beautiful humans like we do. And I really appreciate you listening.